Welcome back to another episode of the Honey Line. And disaster or minor disasters have been propping up everywhere. So I've been in a little bit of a tiz, but we have done some sorting. We've cleared some space and then filled the space, and we're sorting through some stuff. We've got things going on over there, like getting materials ready. We've sorted through some of these drawers. I've ragged out all my old camera equipment. To mess around with some lenses and stuff like that. But layout wise, what has been going on? So we're not really much further to where we were. We did some, I can't remember if I mentioned it last episode, this sort of foam board bit here got hot glued back to this, and so it's a bit more of a sturdy chassis. I'm still not sure whether or not it's going to be a scenic brake with a lift-off lid, or whether or not it's going to be kind of like kept in and build some scenery around it. We need to enclose this. I have done some designs for a tunnel, and I'm going to go over those probably later on this episode. I'm hoping that's going to be the focus. But typical fashion, I started working because I just thought I need to do something. And we'll focus on what I've actually done at the minute. So part of the problem I had was we want a building up there, and there's not much that, you know, it wasn't wide enough really for a building and more rocks or more rocks or more rocks to go on without pushing it too forward. So I found some air drying clay, which is just this. Oh no, that keeps happening with the bloody track as well. Hobby clay. It's from Flying Tiger. There's one in Meadowhall. I don't know if there's anyone else. It's like an IKEA knick-knack shop. So I was going through it. I knew I had some DAS clay somewhere. I didn't know I had that. So I thought, do you know what? Nanas to it. Let's try it. Now, as I was putting it on, my intention was to originally carve it. Put it on and then, do my best to carve it. I mean, if this is anything to go by. I realise what I've done wrong there. I've done them the wrong way. I fell back to old methods in the end, and I watched some terrain shooter old videos. Mel, he does a lot. He mainly wargaming stuff, but the man knows a massive amount of stuff, and that is where I learnt a lot of things. So I went back to Mel. I went back to the wise old wizard of terrain making. Which this is essentially what we're doing with terrain making. And then I just chuck this clay down. But it's actually accidentally made a bit of a rocky texture anyway. And then I was thinking, the way this has gone round, and a lot of things I want to throw into this bit is kind of some ancient Greeky bits, which I know sounds weird. Because our island, we don't know where it is. It could be in the Med somewhere. But I like, and then I was thinking, oh, that looks like some of the walls that I saw in Greece. You know, where they mined it when I was in Rhodes, where they carved it away and kind of like left it smooth but still rocky. And I was like, that actually looks quite good. And then we've got this little hole here, our accidental hole. And I was like, oh, that's quite good. And then it was kind of like, oh, ancient mine. There we go. A couple of casualties in the run up to this. So these rocks are all painted. These were off of the what you may call it layout. The little the one that I keep showing, the reference one, the hill that I made for Ham ages ago. It's too big, it's not fitting anywhere, it's got some good rocks on it. I didn't want to cast all these rocks again, so I ripped them all off. Some of them broke, we've got some useful bits. That's the main thing. So that's now dead destroyed. Other problems that we've occurred. So this is currently re-gluing. Because unbeknownst to me, and this is a thing that I should have checked. It's completely my fault. I should have twigged on. Aerosols don't necessarily work well with polystyrene, and that spray glue doesn't work well with this polystyrene, this bottom layer, because if you can see, we're loose. So we need to kind of do this bit before everything starts shifting. This bit had completely gone. When I lifted it away, essentially what's happened is we've melted melted this polystyrene with the spray adhesive. So that's the thing. So this board potentially all compromised, depending on how well it's stuck. I think it's stuck in more places than it's not stuck, if you get my meaning. But yeah, so we're going to work on that. We're going to go over the plans for the tunnel. And then that will be this episode. We'll see how this dries. Now, I hope this doesn't dry and crack. That would be a bad day. Editor Jack speaking. I forgot to record some footage. This is not the first time you'll hear me today. But so the design of the tunnel, essentially, I measured out roughly the space that I had, and taking some square paper, some design paper, marked up this rough plan with some instructions, and then labelled each bit. I was using kind of like the Metcalfe, let's call it the Metcalfe model for want of a better term, and the idea is you have 4 A pieces, a base plate, which is like the piece, and you cut it out, the C piece, which is the top of the tunnel, and a B piece, which I didn't end up using, which is like a centre support above the tunnel mouth. So I did that, measured it all up, wanted something I could print out onto a sheet of A4. So this is all the correct measurements, or correct-ish measurements, and I wanted to stick it to a piece of foam core, essentially A4 foam core, to get it all nice. So I decided to put it into a program called GIMP. It's what I use to do a lot of designy things. It's basically a free version of Photoshop, and you can get loads of brushes and stuff like that. It is not very good for designing things such as this. This took me a ridiculously long time. If I could remember how to use Inkscape, because it's been a long time since I've used Inkscape, or some other free software, this would have been a lot more quicker and probably come out a lot better. But yeah, I put it onto the A4 sheet, gave it design, gave myself cutting lines, so if I ever want to make this tunnel project again, I can do. And if anyone's ever interested in it, feel free to drop me a comment or something like that, and I'll send you through the rock tunnel for the honey line, and you can have a go yourself, or maybe make me something nice. That'd be good. But yeah, so that's what I did, and that leads you on to this bit. We've printed the template, the tunnel template, onto paper, and then I've just, in waiting for it to fully dry, I've just very quickly glued it to an A4 sheet of foam board. Now, I don't know if it's my measurement, most likely, or whether or not it's the printing has not scaled it, but what 2 problems I've found. Number 1, that's not 150 mil from there to there, but that's not a problem. It's foam board. We can trim it. I can tweak it. The other problem that we've found, in fact, I think I know where that error came from, because when I was doing this bit on the squared paper, yeah, I might have rubbed out the wrong line, but that's fine. The portal bit marries up. And that's the main thing. But the more important problem, which is probably going to mean me going to have to customize it. So on the side view, obviously this comes out to 5 centimeters. Which is great. It's big wide support for our bridge. However, one of the reasons why this is so wide for a narrow gauge and it's not a nice tight tunnel is because it's on a curve and we want a thingy. And 5 centimeters on these, the clearance is going to be bad. But it's not a problem because we can snip it off there. I'm going to wait for this to glue to set, and then we're going to cut out all the bits, and then we'll see if this monstrosity actually works. I am going to have to put it on something, or put something in between these little areas, because we're going to fill it with foam, and if I don't, it's going to stick to this surface because we're going to do it on the old baseboard. Doesn't matter if we get this stuff thingy. I've started ripping it up anyway. So yeah, that's where we are now with getting this tunnel in. All the parts are cut out. The glue gun is warming up. To cut everything out, we started with a scalpel. However, the problem with the scalpel was I kept slipping and resulted in some where is it? It's hard to sometimes find things on a camera. It resulted in some slippage, but that's fine because this is essentially my kit that I designed. These bits aren't glued on, they're just an example of how it goes together. So I moved to the razor saw. I'm loving the razor saw at the minute. I think I said in a previous episode, didn't give much love to the razor saw previously, but now it's getting loads of use. That meant that the lines were all nice and straight. So the idea is, if I can do this one-handed while freehand and all that, is each kind of like where it says A, like A, we'll stick A. Oh God, A and C. You get the idea. It'll all stick together, so that'll kind of like stick there, and the other one will stick there, and then that one will stick there, and we'll end up with a thingy. I'm using hot glue because most of this is going to be hidden anyway. Hot glue is really good. The only concern I've got is the glue on the paper staying, but then when it's all filled and held together, it should be fine. I might peel it away. In fact, what I can do, I can run a pen lid or something down there just to kind of like score where it is, and then we'll get it in. We are going to have to do some slight modifying, but I'd already predicted that. That's why on this bit of clay here we didn't actually do right to the edge on this bit. This clay's still wet. It's not really been 24 hours yet though, so this is probably going to get trimmed down maybe on this side, and then we can build around it. Like I said, the supports are going to have to get trimmed, and then we'll check alignment and stuff like that. And I think that'll be an episode, because I've noticed a lot of these episodes stupidly long, which is for nothing else, editing wise, and my poor old computer, because it is a new computer I've got, but it needs more RAM, so it's struggling at the minute when it's. And I've downgraded the footage to HD instead of 4K because it only outputs in HD anyway, and the old Canon records in HD. So yeah, that's that. So I'm going to stick these together now. And then we'll show you it in situ, and then we'll go over if we need to do any modifications. Might even use a tripod. Right, it's in place. It's not stuck in place, but as you can see, we've built it. We tore off the paper. I haven't fitted the middle bit. I don't know if it's 100% necessary, the B strut. It needs some, obviously, work around there. And that's kind of like where we're at. It overhangs ever so slightly down here. I don't even know if that's in focus. Come on, you pig. Yeah, it overhangs ever so slightly if you look down this edge. Although it's not too bad. I think we get away with that. But I do think I am going to shave that off. This fun part's going to be putting the filler in this, because I am going to try it, because I want to play with filler. I want to see how good it is. Although that it might be a bit of a waste for that amount. I'm probably going to have to replace this bit so we're at the same height. Originally, this was meant to be all the same height. Although, yeah, we'll do with that. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it on a tripod, and we're going to test clearances. I've got a feeling these are going to have to get trimmed down either which way. And we're going to have to build something out this way. But that'll be fine. We can do that. So yeah, let's get on a tripod. So you will be the witness the same time as me. We're going to add some risk. Will it clear it? Will it crash? Who knows? So that awful buzzing is because we're using the Hornby controller. So yeah, there's definitely a difference between controllers. I have looked at some Gauge Master ones, some of the walk around ones and the single ones. So let's bring her up to a nice gentle speed. So we're on about what, 40%. Oh, move these. And she would have been going great if someone had not left a cable in the way for the hot glue gun. And now she's stuck on more cables. Oh my god, it's a disaster. Those cables apart. Sounds awful on that controller. Oh! And we have actually still got clearance. The problem I've got is the clearance is fine as it stands at the moment. But if I ever get any longer coaches, then we might have some issues. So I'm thinking this side should be fine. Let's just put it in reverse. That controller came with the Scotsman set. How are we looking on the clearance? Well, I mean, actually on that side it's pretty good, so we could leave this side, potentially. You just have a look down. Do you know what? I think we might actually be able to get away with it full stop. Cool, we did a thing. Right, now all we've got to do is make it look like it's part of a mountain face. I am going to cut this bit off. I've decided. I think we're going to get the razor saw. So I'm going to trim this down. And then we'll have a think about what we can fill it with.
So this is Future Jack here. Just editing this reel together. So I didn't record the building of the actual tunnel. I thought I'd talk you through it because it was a lot quicker. It was getting late, and I just wanted to get it done. So first of all, after assembling it all, thought of a way that I could fill it. Part of the objective was get it filled, get it looking half decent. The other objective was to use up some stuff that I had left. So we assembled some tools, this being the hot glue gun, some water, which, you know, I decided a demijohn was the best vessel to carry the water up the stairs in, some like lollipop sticks, some tape, and some blue roll. I also dug out some old plaster cloth. Now this is very old. This is year-old plaster cloth. The bit that's not in a packet, that's been out of a packet for a while. This was rubbish. The other one wasn't as bad, but the plaster had essentially dried out. I did use warm water to try and, you know, get it to go, but it wasn't perfect. But it's fine. It all worked out well in the end. Started off by essentially just stuffing and gluing blue roll into the frame, just like that, nice and simple, nice and easy. Decided that the tunnel mouth was going to be a wooden tunnel mouth, so I took some lollipop sticks and I cut them all to size. After doing some marking and measuring, I used a couple of matchsticks and cut those at angles and super glued those in, so we had this kind of like lovely wood effect. Pattern, nice and easy, nice and simple. I then took the old rubbish plaster cloth, marked that out roughly, cut that out to shape, then we soaked it. Realised it wasn't doing anything, but it was kind of sticking, so we stuck it on anyway. And smooth it back down as best I can. Opened the closed packet of plaster cloth. That got me a second coating on, and then left it for a good couple of days to dry. And it's cold at the minute, and upstairs is a little bit cold. And it didn't fully dry, so I decided to cover it in clay. Put it in situ, covered it in clay, did a little bit of carving. Sometimes, as you see in these rock faces, or I've seen it quite a few times, people put engineering marks, year marks and stuff like that when a tunnel was bored, etc. And then sat back and waited for everything to dry. While that was happening, I found some lovely old sheets of polystyrene, again trying to use up some old stock that I've got. Cut this with my hot knife on my soldering iron. So again, this is a really old soldering iron. Kind of cut this, put the blade in, got it all nice and hot. It takes a while to get it warm, as you can see. It's a very old, worn, rusty blade. Did some measuring. Obviously, this was cut and marked out to precision. First time, no mistakes were made in the making of this tunnel. Honest. Cut out some supports just to kind of like give it. So we've got access at the back, and it's supporting itself. Did another panel, just to kind of to make sure that. We got a lid on the tunnel, essentially, to start finishing that effect. Then I used some offcuts polystyrene, basically made some silhouettes for rocks. Used some tin foil, because the clay had dried a lot more now and it was a bit more sturdy, so did the old tin foil ball trick and textured this. I still wasn't 100% happy with it. It wasn't going the way I wanted it to go, 100%. So I dug through my drawers of potentially useful bits and bats, and this is orchid potting bark from an old orchid. And I took some filler, because filler is essentially cement in my eyes. When it comes to modelling, it sticks everything to everything. And we just started to stick little bits of interesting orchid bark, like you would cork bark, onto the front. And at this point I was thinking, I've wasted my time and this is going to look terrible. But little known secret, usually when we do these things in modelling, this is when things usually work out to look not terrible. If it looks rubbish when it starts off, my experience is it usually finishes off all right. So we moved it over to our little painting desk. I took some Vallejo surface airbrush primer because I wanted to get rid of this stuff. I've had it for a while. I don't like it through the airbrush. It's like a latexy finish. I always find that if one part of it starts peeling, because it is a latex based one, the whole thing starts peeling. So it doesn't chip, it peels. Just bad experience on making models with it, so tend to use it for rubbish jobs now. But it'll be perfect for this, because this should absorb some of the moisture, hopefully anyway. So yeah, we primed it black. We gave it a good 2 coats in black, got it all nice and black. Left the wood wood coloured. then when that had all dried, gave it a night to dry. Got some artisty paints, some black, some white, some brown. Stuck them all on my super professional palette, which is definitely not a tile. Mixed them together into this like warm grey. So it's essentially grey with a hint of brown to make it a bit warmer. Painted that, gave it a couple of coats, mixed it all up. Had quite a bit of brown left. Don't like wasting paint, so I painted the wood brown. Then when that had dried, that only took about 20 minutes, half an hour to dry. Dug out some stony coloured Citadel paints. So Longbeard Grey is one of my favourite dry brushing paints. Dry brushing paints are essentially a lot thicker. Layer paints are quite thinner, but as you can see there, I've got an Old Faithful makeup brush, which I use as a dry brush, and a blue towel. Put it on your brush, wipe it off, so you've barely got any left on the brush. Helps if the brush is a little bit damp. I tend to use my tongue to dampen it, but and a lot of people think that's gross. A lot of people I know, especially the older generation of painters, we all do it. It's a way of getting things wet without getting it drenched. Then dry brushed the Carrick stone, which is the darker brown stone colour, all over. Went over all of that. In a kind of swirly, spirally motion, and then from picking one angle on the sharpest edge on the tops of the rocks and just on the kind of like the left-hand sides mainly, went over it in that Longbeard Grey just to pick out the sharper edges. It's like a stylized effect that happens, and as you can see, it picks out edges really nicely, and it turned out it looked like rock. It's not perfect, but it looks like rock. Next, we dug out, or I made up the previous night, some of this my own texture paint. This is basically PVA, dirty paint water, and dirt. On the top, I always put a little sample on the top of one, to test what the consistency is when it dries, and two, so I know what's in this particular tub. As you can see, when you make things like this, you can make it and store it for a short period of time if it's an airtight container, but it doesn't look pretty when you open it up. That's because all the heavy stuff, in this case dirt, it's old potting compost, sinks to the bottom, and all the water and everything goes to the top. It separates. So after a stir, you get it back to the consistency that you need it. And then with a very old brush. Now, most of my brushes are old and knackered anyway. This particular one was the unlucky choice. This sort of stuff does ruin brushes, so never use a nice brush. I started just applying it along the tops and aiming for kind of like crevices, giving it this kind of like, so rocks are jutting out, but we've had a bit of, mud landslip. And then when everything had dried, put it in place, which leads you up to the now in the video, the past. So we'll talk a little bit about this. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the video, but the idea will be to essentially put some flocking and stuff like that and blend it into this top section when we get that done.
Okay, so as you can see, the tunnel is pretty much finished. We've got some last couple of bits to do on it. I need to put some flocking around the dirty areas. It's got a nice, I don't know if it needs a bit more dirt on, if I'm honest, but we shall see on that one. It's come out quite well. I'm not 100% happy for it. It looks a bit awkward, but I mean, it's going to look awkward until we do the rest of the terrain and blend it in. The woodwork needs some work on it. These panellings, bit of paint, bit of weathering. We need to get the weathering powders out on the main entrance bit, sort of like where the letters are carved in. didn't come out particularly well, but you get the impression of what it's meant to be. I mean, this is probably going to be a temporary tunnel anyway, until I can make something a bit more legit. And yeah, all in all, I'm relatively happy with it. The reason I've not put any of the greenery on yet, the flocking and stuff like that, is because before we do that, we need to paint and finish the rest of this bit. Obviously, you may see in the background some slight changes. I got a bit sidetracked and decided to cut the board up and then rag everything out, and I'm in the process of putting all that back in. But yeah, we'll get that done. And I've also done a little bit of small buy-ins. We've built a little bit of other bits as well. Needs some refinement, but that's going to be like a scaffolding. So yeah, so as ever, thank you for watching. Hope this video has been a little bit helpful. You know, not how to do things professionally, but more or less how to do things with what you've got, using, you know, minimal skill, let's call it. So yeah, thank you for watching, and as ever, until next time.